Happy New Year and welcome to Preps Plus Extra, the Journal Sentinel's high school sports show. How you doing? I'm Mark Stewart, prep editor of the Journal Sentinel. Joining me again, J.R. Radcliffe, sports editor of Now Newspapers. How you doing?
Doing great. Trying to stay warm like everybody else here in southeastern Wisconsin.
Yes, it is cold outside, but hey, as J.R.'s shirt notes, spring training is only about 5-6 weeks away.
That's right. Can't wait. As soon as that field goal for the San Francisco 49ers went through the uprights, it was Brewers season, and I'm ready for some baseball.
Yeah. Well, hey, a lot of people around here are also ready for some really high-profile, high-stake high school basketball games. And this week we have the unique opportunity in boys and girls basketball, at least according to the Journal Sentinel rankings, which, well, else would where else would you look? But according to the Journal Sentinel rankings, you got the, number 1 versus number 2 boys and girls teams playing this week. Saturday we've got Milwaukee Pius, number 2, going to top-ranked Divine Savior Holy Angels. And then on Tuesday, the game I think everyone's been waiting for, Germantown takes its winning streak out to Brookfield Central for, like I say, probably the most highly anticipated game of the year. So let's start there. Next Tuesday, it's going to be a big showdown out there. What are you expecting?
Well, I expect, first of all, to be a sellout crowd wall to wall. And this was kind of the case coming into the football season. We had that Homestead Arrowhead battle, that game that you could circle right off the top that wasn't just meaningful in the area, but pretty much throughout the state. And it's not just the Journal Sentinel who has those as the top 2 teams, but most metrics are saying Germantown's your number 1 team in the state, Brookfield Central is your number 2. And we've talked about this before. Central has a blueprint for how to beat Germantown, which I believe their winning streak up to 68 games now. They took them to the wire last year. It was a last-second basket by Luke Fisher to save Germantown in that one. Pretty much the closest battle they've had, with the exception of a state-titled victory over Milwaukee King. Those are really the only 2 games where Germantown has truly been threatened along the way on this streak. So they go to Brookfield Central, hostile environment. Central is extremely talented in their front 5. They've got Riley LaChance, a difference maker, who we've talked about before, going to Vanderbilt. An inside guy, Elijah Goodman, who's as good as any post player in the area. They've got a point guard in Brad Newman, and a guy like Caleb Mortag, who's 6'6" and can dunk pretty much at will. He's probably a much more lower profile than he should be because he's on a team with other great players. People don't recognize him as one of the best guys in the state or the area, but he truly is one of the top players in the area. He just is maybe the 3rd option on that team. So they really are a deep team, and I think they can match up with Germantown a way that most teams cannot.
Yeah, and the one thing that's unique about Brookfield Central, they play that 1-3-1 zone, and they probably do it, as good as anyone, maybe, the best in the area and probably one of the best in the state. And that's a defense that a lot of people don't see a lot, so it'll be interesting to see how Germantown handles that. But obviously Germantown, it just seems like, guys like Lamonte Beard, I think Coach Showalter jokes every now and then about, when the crowds are big, this kid is one of those guys that, really comes to play, and he's been, really a driving force. Jake Showalter obviously has been, had some huge games for him. Evan Westenberg, another guy, you talk about Caleb Mortag, and, Westenberg, sorry, I'm not sure which one. But he's another guy that's in that similar mode where you can kind of forget how good a player he is. So that's going to be, like I said, it's going to be a fantastic matchup. If I'm a picking man, obviously, it's hard until someone proves otherwise. You got to go with Germantown.
Yeah, make no mistake, they're still very much the favorite to pull this off. The way they eviscerated Oshkosh North, a very, very good basketball team in the Wisconsin Basketball Yearbook Shootout over the holiday, tells you all you need to know. And that Germantown is just on another level compared to most teams in this state. And even, the guys you mentioned, but even some of the guys who've been role players to this point, Brian Beard and Dariante Hudson, even those guys are coming up and having huge games. So it's impossible to really figure out how you would stop Germantown because you can't take away just 1 or 2 things.
Right. And in closing, it is the difference between Oshkosh North and Brookfield Central is North really got crushed by Germantown at state last year. They didn't really come close.
Right.
And as you noted earlier, Brookfield Central knows, hey, we can play with these guys.
Definitely.
And they get them on their home court. Shifting to the girls' side, Milwaukee Pius goes to Divine Savior Holy Angels, and to bring back some shades of the old Metro. Saturday night at 7:30. You got, the area's best offensive player, Enrique Ogunbowale, the junior guard, against Pius, a team that really prides itself with playing, great defense.
And this matchup maybe not as interesting because these two teams don't have a chance to face each other in the postseason as well. Like for Brookfield Central to win a state championship, they'd have to go through Germantown and vice versa. Here you've got Pius, a D2 team, which has had a very, very good schedule this season, along with DS, a D1 team that's had a similar situation. So it's a very curious matchup. Only one team has scored 40 points on Pius all year. That was Kimberly, the #1 team in Division I, and they scored 41 and the only team to have beaten Pius this year. So they're playing elite level competition. They were close in that one loss. They've beaten some pretty good teams thus far. Mugwanago by 18 points most recently, a very quality win by a pretty significant margin. Doing it offensively with a lot of balance. Like you said, defense runs the show there, but offensively, Gabby Green leads them 11.8 points per game. So we're not talking about one singular star, the complete opposite with DS, where Enrique Ogunbanwale runs the show for them. And it'd be curious to see, can the Pius defense slow her down or stop her to the point that they have enough offense in the tank to win?
Right. I had a chance to speak with Coach Scott Herrick over winter break after one of their wins, and they had just beaten Mugwanago, who has a talented sophomore, Bree Sarah, and he talked about how they defended her, and they just sent 2 or 3 girls, and they just kind of rotated on her, keeping someone fresh, giving her a different look, and I'm assuming we'll probably see same thing against Enrique, who's seen it all, and really it hasn't slowed her down there. So that's going to be another fantastic matchup. Unfortunately, Germantown and Pius, I like both boys and girls hoops, so they're not playing at the same time. I'll get a chance to watch them both. Yeah,
definitely.
Shifting gears, sticking with the girls and really sticking in the Woodland as far as Pius goes. Pewaukee, another team, they really had a huge win over winter break.
Yeah, the win, Division II program again, Pewaukee, they faced off with Oak Creek, at the time the #1 team in Division I, and defeated them at Oak Creek in a holiday tournament there. So a huge win for the program, probably the biggest win for a program that's been as successful as any in the area, definitely as successful as any in Waukesha County. They go in and beat the top team in the state. So a program that has contributions from all 4 classes at this point. Todd Hansen's teams have always been successful. They have a habit of having players who are on varsity all 4 years. There's a sophomore named Abby Garrett. She's one of the best in her class in the state, and a very good sophomore class. And she was putting up big scoring numbers last year. She's back this year doing the same thing. Freshman Mackenzie Schill hit a big basket in that game to give them kind of the win there at the end. So they're getting contributions from the freshmen as well. They've got key juniors and seniors, Wisniewski, Jasinski. They've got players that have been there for 3-4 years now. And so they're in a really good spot, and they really have a team that I think can contend for the Division II state title. It's funny, we talk about Pius. They were going to play, actually, Tuesday night, a game that got wiped out by bad weather. Those two teams are going to run into each other in the postseason again, and one of those teams is not going to make state, and that's too bad because they're 2 of the best in the state.
Yeah, that's one of the things I was thinking about with Pewaukee this year is this year in essence their turn. I mean, they've had really good teams that could have gotten the state if they were in another sectional, but they've always had to run it up against either Pius or New Berlin Eisenhower, and it's just kind of it's a tough draw in that sectional. So as we continue into 2014, that's going to be one of the teams I'm going to be interested to see if how well they keep this going. Switching gears to the boys side, another team that had a big win over winter break was West Allis Central. They beat Milwaukee, Washington Friday night, and here's what Coach Dave Malachnik had to say about the win.
Well, the one thing I love about these guys, they have great chemistry. They get along really well. They trust one another, and I'm just looking forward. I mean, I'm not looking forward to get back in the conference. It's a great conference, and we got a lot of tough games coming up. But I know the guys are excited. They're ready to compete, and that's the one thing each day we talk about. Come to practice and let's have our best, and then each game let's get our best. And so far this year, the guys have done it, and I just look forward to working with these guys. They've been a great group of kids so far.
Like I said, that was Coach Dave Malachnik, whose team has actually won 6 of its last 7 games and are entered this week 7-2. This week they got another big game on the schedule. Yeah,
Sussex Hamilton on Friday. And the Greater Metro Conference is sort of increasing its profile here over the last week with West Allis Central picking up steam. Menominee Falls just beat a very good Waukesha West team. That was kind of a surprising. I think that one went to overtime. So that's just showing the strength of this conference. And Brady Ellingson of Sussex Hamilton, we've talked about him before, one of the top players in the state, and certainly this part of the area. He's going to Iowa. And of course Brookfield Central, whom we've already talked about them. They're leading the league, so some very good teams in that conference. It's going to be a tough road for all of them, but the West Allis Central Hamilton boys matchup could be one of the best on Friday night.
Yeah. we'll give JR the final word this week. That's going to wrap it up for this edition of Preps Plus Extra. For more Preps Plus action, be sure to watch me and Lance Allen every Sunday night on TMJ4.